listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast, a Texas Tech athletics podcast where food and sports clash at the goal line. Here are your hosts, Spencer and Michael.
All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 23 Personnel Podcast. I'm your host, Spencer, joined by Michael. Michael, what's up, man?
It's tournament time.
It is. Not just Big 12 tournament. That was last weekend.
Yeah, and who cares about that?
Big dance. Well, you did what you wanted to do, what you thought you should do.
You played for three halves. You played three halves of basketball.
You won a game. You weren't last.
It's true.
You weren't one and done. And you looked good. You looked good in game one. You took it to BYU early. You kept your foot on them.
To who?
And BYU.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
In game one. And then you ran up against Houston. And Houston did what Houston does. Newsflash. I've got them advancing. Many rounds in all of my brackets.
Yeah, I have a few. I have them winning a few as well.
Oh,
the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Idiot.
Something.
I'm watching. Oh, never mind. Yeah, I'm watching the Texas Tech baseball game, and it looked like Gavin Cash just caught a pop up right on the line and stepped on the base to get the runner who left early, but no, it hit the ground in front of home plate. One bounce, so the runner in first did not get out. He advanced to second. The batter was out. Anyways, idiot would have been the runner in first leaving so early. We'll talk about baseball because it's a disaster. We'll talk about lots of basketball, mainly basketball. We're not going to go through brackets or project anything or pick any games that aren't tied to Texas Tech.
I prepared 32 game previews, and we're just gonna roll right past that. We're not gonna use those. Man, hundreds of words.
You could have used your afternoon much more wisely, Michael.
Dang it. Okay.
I'm just kidding.
I mean, I had like a good 10 minutes on the Nebraska A&M game, but I guess it's fine. It's okay.
I did hear if Nebraska wins, it'd be their first tournament win ever.
No way. That's true?
I believe. Hold on.
Did they not play basketball in Nebraska? It almost, you can't spell basketball without Nebraska. Nebraska ball. It's just all right there.
Yeah, they've appeared in the NCAA tournament 8 times with a combined record of 0-7.
Oh boy. Pretty tough.
Sucks to suck, Cornhuskers. Hey, Texas Tech paired with a familiar opponent, at least in terms of schools, right? You've played them in other sports, in NC State. You get them in your first round matchup, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And then if you were to advance, then you would most likely align with Kentucky. You've played them recently. And then I think, would Houston be next up?
No, Houston's in the top half. So, I'd have to pull it up, but no, I don't think Houston would be after Kentucky.
Anyways, it would be I mean, you haven't played NC State in basketball, or Kentucky in basketball in several years, but not unfamiliar opponents. Football spring practice started today. I started watching that video that Gio and McGuire did from the Jones, where the new south end zone was their backdrop. I was like, that thing is like, it's going to be imposing, man. Like from the field, like their perspective from the field is like, it's going to change a lot. Now, I didn't get to watch all of it, but that's about the only thing I have for football is that it's starting today.
It's starting. There were some. I saw some passes thrown today. There were some Turnpike Troubadour music in the background during some of the highlights. So they've got some good tunes playing out there. Who the Turnpike Troubadours are actually, they announced yesterday, kind of a surprise concert at Cook's Garage on Thursday, the 28th. Is that the day? So next Thursday at Cook's Garage. They haven't announced the tickets or anything yet, and it's going to primarily be used as a fundraiser for relief of the Panhandle fires from last month. So anyway, just
Awesome.
I went on a little tangent there out of nowhere, but I've been trying to figure out what the thing is for tickets, and it's the day before Good Friday. My office is closed on Good Friday.
Nice. So you're
Perfect.
staying up late?
Perfect time to go to a concert. Yeah. Drink some
We'll
coffee
be
and head over there.
we'll be at a Little League baseball game because those started tonight. Grayson doesn't play tonight. He plays Thursday. I had a conversation with him. I was like, Grayson, I'm committing. I will not coach you from the bleachers. I'm your dad, your number one fan. We'll celebrate with you, be sad with you. No coaching.
Just cheer you on.
Tonight, Hayden went with us to practice. They had like a last little run through practice, walk through, whatever. And it was a disaster, which is to be expected, right? Coming out of spring break. Glad it was tonight and not like it was a practice tonight and not a game tonight. Because historically, we've always played in that very first slot on the day coming out of spring break. Like, no chance for practice before first game. Kind of we're jumping way ahead to what we learned in our little league update, but just glad it wasn't his first game wasn't today. Hayden was with us. We went to the playground that was adjacent to the fields. Like, I can't watch this. I'm gonna say something from like far in the right field, and like all four coaches were there. It's like, I'm gonna let them handle it.
They've got this. I'm gonna let the coaches coach and just walk away.
And I walked away. Anyways, this is I signed up for this. I knew this was going to be the difficult part of this season, just of letting go. I have another Little League update that I'll say for the end that is board related, which was also a disaster. Newsflash.
Peek behind the curtain.
I'll tell you all about it. I probably shouldn't, but like, I probably shouldn't tell you all about it. I'll just tell you like generalities. This is not what I expected to be.
Okay. Spilling some tea later.
Maybe.
A little bit.
So, football spring practices, you got about a month of them before you get the spring game in Midland. Basketball, let's start with Lady Raiders. They were not selected to either NCAA tournament or the WNIT, which for them, the ladies' side, is the second tournament. No, sorry.
Well,
the WBI.
WBIT, yeah.
WBIT, yes.
Correct.
Which is the second tournament. The WNIT is now the third tournament. They announced.
I didn't know until this week. Last week I did this whole spiel about, Tech hosted the WNIT last year. There's a good chance they could. And yeah, there were probably some people screaming at that point. That's not it anymore. That's not how it works. I didn't know. Sorry.
Yeah. We learn together.
Yes, we do. And we grow.
But Coach Gerlich put out a statement saying, hey, we didn't make the top two tournaments with our roster situation health. We're going to go ahead and end our season here, get better and get healthy and get set for next year. So want to wish Lady Raiders a wonderful season. Good work. Didn't end the way you wanted it to. Certainly there were some steps in the right direction. Trends, I think, that you can see positive developments, but you hate that they didn't make the postseason, but when you end the season on what was like a 10-game skid or whatever it was, including
Yeah.
the tournament, it's
Th-
rough.
Yeah, it was. I think it was only 9, but then they did win a game in the tournament, and then lost pretty handily to Baylor, I believe.
All right.
So
I guess I
yeah,
missed that they won a game in the women's tournament because I knew like, okay, you're going to lose in the tournament because you didn't win the tournament. And I knew you had a 9-game regular season skid.
yep, yeah, they
Okay,
beat
but
Houston for a third time
there you
somehow.
go. Excuse me for shorting the women's team there.
Yeah, they had
I missed
Houston's number this year. By God, I'll tell you that.
Men, we mentioned they went to the Big 12 tournament and went 1-1. They took down BYU in the quarterfinals, a 4-5 game Thursday morning, and then lost in the semifinals to Houston, which was interesting to me that by the time you got to the semifinals, Michael, it was essentially all chalk. It was 1, 2, 3, and 4 seeds.
Mm-hmm.
And then the championship game were teams 1 and 2. And then you get the big upset there with Iowa State handily defeating Houston. I did not see that
Yeah,
one coming.
that was bizarre.
But you went 1-1. I guess the only other big upsets in the tournament, Kansas State over Texas, that was 10-7, and then Cincinnati 11-6 over Kansas. Kansas State got the right to face Iowa State, and then Cincinnati on to Baylor. Of course, Iowa State and Baylor end up winning those respective games to get them to the semis. With that, so your Big 12 conference tournament, your exit was on Friday. You got a day off, and then you hosted a NCAA tournament watch party selection show, where you were selected as a number 6 seed in the South region. Oddly, you will go to Pittsburgh to play your South region games.
When I think of the South, I think of Pittsburgh.
Is Pittsburgh the gateway to the South?
It's all southern U.S.
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't work. It doesn't
Everything
work
is
as
South, just about.
Yeah.
At this point in the season, Haslametrics has you at the 28th best team in the conference, the country. Dropped a couple spots from 25. Ken Palm bumped you up a little bit, 24 from 25, with the 23rd best offense and a 45th best defense. That's trending in the right direction. You love to see that. BPI has you at 23, up from 24. T rank 28th. Offensive efficiency of 21st, defensive efficiency of 46. So very closely mirroring Ken Palm. They also had you at a projected as a 6 seed, 6.1. And that's what you ended up getting. Net ranking was 27. You finished the season with 6-9 quad 1 record, 4-1 quad 2. You only had one quad 2 or worse loss, and I believe it was UCF at home. You were undefeated quad 3 and 4. So non-quad 1 games, you were 17-1 and 6-9 in quad 1. So the selection show was Sunday. You got matched up with NC State as the 11 seed. Already kind of mentioned, if you were to advance out of this, you will face the winner of Kentucky and
Oakland.
Assuming Kentucky as a 3 seed would make it out of that one pretty comfortably. NC State as a Haslametric rating is 29. Kentucky is a 19. So you're much closer to the 3. Kentucky at 19 and you were 28. Then you are NC State at 11, who is 49th, which if you look at the seeding, obviously that's 3 is closer to 6 and 6 is to 11. The biggest thing I think going into the game this weekend, game 1 is going to be Thursday night, is the health of Warren Washington and Darian Williams. Darian Williams did look like sprain an ankle against BYU. Did come back to play, but if it was an ankle sprain, those are generally more painful a day or two later. Once the swelling has a chance to go up. So he was in a boot on Sunday. That could have just been precautionary to relieve some pressure on his ankle to help provide pressure to reduce or limit swelling. Warren
But
Washington was out of a boot.
Yes, exactly. That's where I was going. I'm pretty sure it was our good friend Mateo Nomeo who pointed that out to me, or pointed that out to us on Twitter. That there's apparently the Texas Tech basketball budget only has enough financial stability for one boot, and that's fine.
I wonder if they wear the same shoe size. It's like, well, it's really like you get one shoe size at this size.
Yeah, spray that stuff in it that you get at the bowling alley and call it good. You know, if Texas Tech had access to the Puff Fund, there'd be 2 boots, at least.
At least.
Probably boots for everybody. They'd probably everyone would have a boot.
Boots for days. Yeah. So you get NC State. They finished 10th in the ACC, but went on what you could call a little bit of a heater, right, Michael?
Yeah, just a bit of a tear.
Went on to win the ACC tournament. So they ended the season losing to Florida State, North Carolina, Duke, and Pitt, to come back and beat Louisville, Syracuse, Duke, Virginia, and North Carolina. Taking down 1, 2, and 3 seeded teams. Seeds 1, 2, and 3 in the ACC tournament to get there. So quite hot. Does that momentum carry over a week? I don't know. I don't think so, but it can't hurt for them.
Yeah, it's nice, especially with how the season ended for them. You know, coming into the ACC tournament, they had ended the season with 4 consecutive losses to Florida State, North Carolina, Duke, and Pitt. And then they were able to turn that back around and win 5 games in 5 days almost immediately after, including an overtime win versus Virginia. But I think Virginia is losing right now, actually.
Oh, man, you'd hate.
Yeah, you hate to see that. And so they're losing. Oh my gosh. Hang on a second. I've got a super freaking loud commercial playing through my ears. It won't even tell me the score.
It's good. I don't hear it here, so.
Well, I know. But they're losing, dang it, 27-14 at half to Colorado State.
They've put up 14 points and a half.
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing? Anyways, looking at NC State, they are led by their DJs and not the guy spinning the 1s and 2s. That was terrible. DJ Horn, guard, and DJ Burns, forward. Horn, their guard, averaging 32 minutes per game, just about 17 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal and a half, and a little more than a turnover per game, shooting 44% from the field, 41% from 3, and just about 80% from the free throw shot. They're not a great free throw shooting team. He is up there as one of their better free throw shooters. There's a starter, Casey Morsel, 80.7. And then they've got a guy, Michael O'Connell, who shoots 83.7% from the stripe, but they're not fantastic from the stripe. Very aggressive defensively, from what I've heard and what I've been able to see. Sorry, I'm I'm going off on a different tangent here. I'm talking about the DJs first. So Horn and then Burns is a forward, is a bigger dude. He's 6'9", 275, averaging 24 and a half minutes per game, but more than 12 points per game, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, half a block, but almost 2 turnovers. But he's shooting almost 52% from the floor, Michael. 67% from the free throw, and I think he's attempted just a handful of threes, and he's hit 20% of those. So he's not a threat to shoot a three so much, but he's their big guy inside. And then they've got Mohamed Diarra, who is, I would say they're legitimate. The other big, 6'10", 215, out of Montreal, France. I believe Tech had a Montreal, France player too. Was that
That sounds familiar.
Oh, what is his name? Is that where Nadolny was from?
I don't know. He was French though.
He was. So Texas Tech coming into this game is I believe a 6-point favorite, or 5.5 point favorite. And then if you look at like body of work, obviously when you're matching up with a team that finished 10th in their league, and a good league, but they finished 10th, right? You're favored to win this one. I think a lot of that is going to have to deal with one, if Warren Washington is available and how many minutes he plays. But certainly, Darian Williams. Oh my gosh, I'm having the worst time with names tonight. Just mine went blank. His
I thought
ankle.
you froze.
Yeah, I was like, there's nothing to look at to help me. So I was like, I wasn't gonna like look around the room and get distracted. But
I was worried the internet froze. I thought, oh no, we've lost him. He's back though.
Yeah. No, I was looking at the baseball game. I was like, this is not helping. And there was a message that came through from the board president, league president. It's like, oh my gosh, which we'll get to later. Yeah. So, NC State 49th in Haslametrics. Let's pull up 22-14 on the season. I swear all of these stats pages have been super slow.
You want some common opponents?
Yeah, love to hear common opponents as this loads.
There is only one that I am aware of, unless Tech played Abilene Christian. Did Tech play Abilene Christian in basketball this year? I know they have before.
I don't know.
I don't think they did this season. But
I don't think it was this year.
Second game of the season, Wolfpack took them down at home, 84-64. And then the only other one that I can spot is a loss versus BYU, 86-95. And of course, Tech has one of those now too, thanks to the Big 12 tournament. Oh no, Tech, gosh. Tech's 2-0 against BYU.
Yeah.
This season. I don't know where my head is. I keep forgetting that game happened and that they only lost and that it was to Houston, and I don't know where my head is. So anyway, that's the only common opponents that I can spot right now, aside from Virginia. Do we want to talk about that? Probably not.
It will always be too soon to talk about that game, Michael.
So Virginia finished number 3 in the ACC, but NC State beat them in the regular season 76-60 back in January. And then I think that was, and then they lost in overtime to them that same month, and then they won against them in the ACC tournament. So as long as Texas Tech is better than Virginia, which I'm willing to bet they are, since Colorado State's currently doubling up on them at halftime, they have a shot.
We haven't played Abilene Christian, Michael, since
was it the old Coliseum?
2020-2021 season.
Doesn't seem like that long ago, but maybe it was.
That was 3 years ago.
Well, I
Beat
think
them
that had
51-44.
well, because Beard and the coach there were buds,
Yeah, what was his name?
so I couldn't tell you, and I don't think he's there anymore. I kind of
No,
thought
because
he got hired by someone in the UT system somewhere.
UTEP.
UTEP maybe, yeah, but I can't remember the guy's name. Anyway, they were buds, so I think that was part of the reason that they played. But I just assumed that there
Golding.
might have been another one on the schedule. Yes,
Joe
Golding.
Golding.
Good times.
Okay.
Speaking of good times, NC State did lose to Ole Miss by 20.
Wow. Offensive efficiency. These are based on Haslametrics. The page finally loaded for me. 39th. 72nd in defense. If I could understand what all these mean. They don't shoot a lot of threes, so they're not a bad shooting team. They're 57th in their 3-point percentage, but they're 280th in 3-point attempts per 100 trips. So like I said, they're not going to shoot a bunch. 67th in mid-range attempts, but they're 170th in mid-range percentage.
Yeah, there's nothing, nothing huge that pops out to me on their typical stats with their shooting. They're pretty average on field goal shooting. They're pretty average on 3-point shooting. A lot of their stats are about the same or just slightly below what Tech is normally doing. But one thing that did stand out was turnovers. I do think they hold on to the ball really well. They are only averaging 9.6 turnovers, and Tech's averaging 10.8. But in that same token, they're forcing 12 and a half, and Tech is only forcing 11 and a half. So that's a kind of a margin of 3 in their favor for the season. And that's something that could, if Tech's unable to calm some nerves or be able to run a successful offense or have some personnel issues and some miscommunications, NC State could definitely get that ball and cause a lot of havoc.
Yeah. I think there's one, at least on this Haslametrics stats page, that stands out is the potential quick points allowed off breakaway steals. They're third. So I think they're really good at recovering quickly and not allowing a breakaway scoring opportunity. Outside of that, though, like the rankings vary between 67th and 297. So it's not like it's a mixed bag. And I'm not going to say like Texas Tech is like a world beater comparatively here, but I would just say that you're favored, and I would expect Texas Tech to win this game, unless you're without Williams and Washington. I think you're already a fairly thin bench team as it is. Robert Jennings has been improving so much, but like you would love to have a rotation that also included Warren Washington. So,
Yeah, I feel confident about this game, but not cocky, if that makes any sense. Like you said, if I mean, particularly if Williams is out, I think this team's proven that they can win without Washington. It doesn't make it easy. It doesn't mean that he wouldn't help the team being there, but that would be that they're more used to that. They've had 7 or 8 games without him. Williams would be an immediate factor and I think at this point a bigger factor in their success, especially on defense too, because he's one of the few guys outside of Jennings that has a little bit of size on him that gets very many minutes. So I expect Tech to win too, but I don't think it's going to be. I will probably hate watching it. I think it's going to be one of those that the lead may change quite a bit. I think NC State's they're a pretty salty team, but they were also 10th in their conference. So Tech should be better and should be able to go step for step with their playmakers, with the two DJs, uh, and not be as concerned about the other team making threes or shooting lights out. They just kind of play good basketball that doesn't seem to get too high or low in any of the categories. But Tech should win this, and again, I just think it's not going to be one that, oh, Tech's up by 15 and they just stay up by 15 the rest of the game. It doesn't feel that way to me.
Yeah. I mentioned free throws earlier for NC State. They do attempt a bunch per game, more than 31 per game, which gives them 31 in 100 trips. Free throw attempts per 100 trips up court versus the average opponent. They're 28th. Texas Tech is 85th. But NC State is only shooting 73%, so they're 123rd in that category, whereas Texas Tech is shooting more than 78%, which is good for 11th. So they get more attempts, but aren't shooting as well. Texas Tech takes fewer attempts, but converts on quite a few more.
Which obviously, if it comes down to one of those close games where intentional fouling is part of the strategy, Tech will have a slight advantage there.
Yeah. Anyways, Kentucky is a little bit of a different animal. They are all offense, man. They're averaging almost 90 points per game. Texas Tech is averaging 76. NC State 76.5. But Kentucky scoring wise, 89.4 points per game. But they are allowing almost 80 points per game scored on them. Texas Tech is allowing 69.0. NC State 72.7. So of the three, Texas Tech has the best scoring defense and the worst scoring offense. I think that has a lot to do with playing in the Big 12. I think a lot of teams picked up and adopted the Beard and Adams defensive style, and that slowed things down within the conference a little bit. But in terms of field goal percentage, you and NC State are about the same, 45.5 to 45. Texas Tech has the advantage there. You allow the least opponent field goal percentage by 0.1 under Kentucky. They do 49.9. They allow 49.9. You're 40. Oh my gosh. 42.9. You allow 42.8. NC State has the worst shooting defense at 44.3. Kentucky shoots the heck out of the three, man. 41.2%. This is a season average over the 30 whatever games. Texas Tech there is second in this little three-team grouping at 36.3. So quite a bit of a drop off there. NC State 34.7. Texas Tech has the best 3-point defense at 32.3, followed closely by Kentucky 32.6, and then NC State 34.8. You're the best free throw percent shooting team, 77.5. You take the least amount of attempts in this three-team grouping. I think it's interesting with the size issue you had inside. You're basically rebounding the same as NC State, 34.9 and 35. But they have a season net negative rebound here. They're letting teams out rebound them 36 to 35. Texas Tech is out rebounding opponents again on the season 34.9 to 33.9. Kentucky's grabbed a lot more boards, 37.6, allowing 36.7. So there's a lot of rebounding opportunities for Kentucky. Turnovers about the same between you and Kentucky. NC State able to hold on to the ball a little bit better. You turn over the ball just under 11 times per game. They do it at 9.5 times per game. NC State forces 12.5. You force 11.5. Kentucky forces 12. So I think if you get past NC State, it's going to really come down to if you can rebound and kind of get Kentucky off the three. Because if you can slow them down a little bit, your offense has the potential to keep up, assuming you don't have large droughts in the game. But I think with the way that Kentucky doesn't really play that great of a defense, and maybe it has a lot more to do with their pace. But you may be able to avoid some of those long droughts against a team like Kentucky because of, like I said, their shooting defense and their pace of play.
Yeah, the Wildcats, I knew they would be good, and we thought, well, we'd just kind of touch on them a little bit, assuming they beat Oakland and assuming Texas Tech beats NC State.
Mm-hmm.
No such thing as a jinx. We're just talking basketball. Just a couple of guys talking hoops. But Kentucky, I didn't realize how formidable they would be on offense. We've gone through the stats, but just to cement it a little bit more, that 89 points per game is the number 2 scoring offense in the entire country. They are number 1 in 3-point percentage and number 5 in field goal percentage, which is nuts because they're shooting almost 50%. They're shooting 49.7. So half the time the ball leaves a Wildcat's hand, it's going in, which is insane. And then on the flip side of that, or what we would call the Kingsbury conundrum, they are number 334 in scoring defense. So Spencer's already gone through that. They're allowing 79.7 points per game. And on the NCAA stat sheet, I think there were 9 pages and they were on page 8.
Yikes.
So number 334 on scoring defense. And that's a great point. If Tech finds themselves in one of those droughts against Kentucky, assuming they beat NC State, assuming Kentucky beats Oakland, that they should be able to snap out of it. They should be able to score on these guys. But, man, you got to stop them. You've got to stop them.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard.
You got to stay up late for this one, though. Thursday, 8:40 tip on CBS in Pittsburgh. Take on NC State Wolfpack for your chance to face Kentucky or Oakland on Saturday.
Mm-hmm. We should be rooting for Oakland. I don't know why. I should have looked into them some more, just to give them a little good mojo going into the tourney.
Let's see. Haslam mentioned. Pull this back up. Where are the good Oakland?
Fill in the blanks.
The Friars.
Are they the Friars?
There's no way. Just pull that out of a hat.
Who was it? Carson.
Oh, he was so good at knowing all the San
Carson.
Francisco. That's not them.
Carson and Rob co-hosted a show together on, I'm calling it 1340, but that's not what it is anymore. Anyway, on the AM station here in town, and Carson, I think, is with Rob most of his weekly shows that he has on YouTube live during the week. So check those out if you're not already. On the Gambling Gauchos YouTube feed, set it up to notification, turn them on. Anyway, so Carson hops in there here and there, and he was like a savant when it came to just any college you listed. I remember them doing this to him several times on the radio, and he would just, sometimes he hesitated, but rarely. And on the counter side of that, I'm probably the absolute worst person.
They are the Golden Grizzlies.
Golden Grizzlies, tip of my tongue.
They are 144th in KenPom. They are lower in KenPom than West Virginia, than Oklahoma State, Just to give you an idea about where Oakland's coming from.
Golden Grizzlies. Okay.
So
Well,
if there were to
go
be
Grizzlies. Big fan. Big fan of the
14 over
Grizzlies.
14 over 3 upset, this may not be the one.
Yeah. Huge Warriors fan. What other teams in there? Love the A's, even though it seems like they're tanking to get moved to Vegas or whatever the heck it is they're doing. Go Oakland.
Texas Tech baseball takes down the Wildcats 9-4
Good.
on a looking strikeout on a borderline pitch.
So I feel like
It's a strike.
I feel like it's a perfect segue to just jump into baseball because for once I watched some baseball today, Spencer, and our guy Petty had a rough first inning, and I just wanted to just kind of go through it. I don't want to beat a dead horse because Tech won, but he comes out there, and I think out of his first 14 pitches, 2 of them were strikes. He walks the first 2 batters. The guy on second base, the runner on second base, takes a long lead off of second base, and Petty interrupts his pitching motion to kind of think about throwing him out, and then of course it's a balk. And so now you've got a base runner on second and third as your third batter comes up, no outs, walks him. So he's got the bases loaded, and he's at a balk, and he's thrown like 14 pitches. And then he throws a strike. And like the crowd was cheering. He struck out 2 in a row, to his credit.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know. I don't have the stats pulled up in front of me, so I can't say who it was. So and then someone hit a bloop or whatever, and no,
what even that?
No, he walked another one.
Mm-hmm.
He walked it. Okay, that's right. There were no hits, so he walked. He struck 2 guys out. Bases were still loaded. He walked another batter, so they scored a run off of that. And then he had a wild pitch.
Yep.
They scored a run off that wild pitch. And then I think he struck out the batter after that. That was it. Then he was out. That was his only inning that he pitched. And just what a brutal start but somehow it went way better than it could have. To only allow 2 runs in that scenario when you've had the bases juiced, I think, while you had 3 or 4 batters at the plate, and you only allowed 2 runs, like, okay, glass
on
half
no
full.
Hits.
Glass half full. That's not so bad. But yeah, that was a rough start.
In the baseball Discord channel, I said, our pitching is bad.
It appears to be rough.
And then Rob chimes in, he's like, he struck out the side and find a new slant. I was like, 1,
he was
find a new phrase. 2, he walked more people than he struck out. Walked 4 guys. Like
he was
into
getting
the
under your
inning
skin.
on 2 runs, 4 walks on no hits and no error. So it wasn't like it was all on Petty. Literally everything that happened was on Petty.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Hey, we don't like to single out people, or I don't, and I know you don't.
I'm just
like
saying,
to either. But wow, that was a really tough first inning. Hadn't seen anything like that in a while. Goodness.
Only pitched 1 inning, no hits, 2 runs, one earned, 4 walks, 3 Ks, a balk. Faced 7 batters, threw 36 pitches.
Had a wild pitch for a run.
Yeah. Well, I think they had it as a pass ball, so it doesn't go down on Petty. It goes against Rivers, which I don't think it was on Rivers. I think. Well, it's
obviously
because
Petty was having trouble finding the strike zone.
Yeah,
so
it's because it hit Rivers' glove first.
Yeah, it did. It was kind of, if I remember, it was low inside.
Way inside. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Hutera came on in relief. He went 2 innings and got the victory. He's now 2-0 in the season. 2 hits, no runs, no walks, no strikeouts. He faced 8 batters in 7 innings, where Petty faced 7 and 1. 5 flyouts and a ground out, 28 pitches, 19 of those were strikes. Hudson Luce came on, 2 innings, 2 hits, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. Cole Case, and I don't know if I've never actually had the volume on when he's been on the mound. I don't know if it's Casey, whatever. He went another 2 innings, no hits, no runs, 3 strikeouts. He faced the minimum. He faced only 6 batters, so 3 strikeouts, a flyout, and 2 groundouts. 30 pitches. Isaiah Rhodes came in for a third, gave up a run and a hit. Sorry, no hits, but a run and a walk. Only faced 2 batters, so walked 1 and got a ground out. Then Hudson Parker came in for 2/3, and then Brandon Lysick finishing out for the final inning. Offensively, you collected 13 hits on the night, scored 9 runs, starting with a 3-run blast in the first inning, bottom of the first, there for McGee. He had a home run, scoring Tracer Lopez and Gavin Cash. Bottom of the third, Woodcocks comes in and he hits a 2-run home run, scoring Austin Green. Pompey scores a run in the 5th, or he bats in an RBI. Cash got a sacrifice fly in the 5th. Rivers in the 6th hit an RBI single, scoring McGee. And then Tracer Lopez given an RBI when he grounded out to the shortstop. But Harrelson was in scoring position, was able to finish that one off. So you give up 4 runs tonight. Only one of them was a hit. Only one of those runs was scored on a hit. We talked about the walk in the first inning and the pass ball in the first inning. ACU didn't score again to the top of the 8th on a wild pitch. And then top of the 9th, they had runners on. Well, bases were loaded and grounded out to Cash unassisted. So they were able to score a run, but got the out there. So that's tonight, Michael. Let's rewind a little bit. Talk about what happened in Waco.
Do you want to?
I don't, but I
very passively kept up with that series, and it was.
Well, it was kind of hard to, because
yes,
you played, like, the schedule was all out of whack after Friday night's game. So you go in, you win Friday night 2-0. Your offense didn't look great, but obviously when you hold a team to do a shutout, you're like, well, whatever works, right? Then Saturday's game gets interrupted in the top of the 4th. I mean, Baylor had already scored, I believe, all 5 of their runs at that point. Yeah, they had scored 2 in the first, 3 in the second. So I was kind of hoping, like, okay, rain suspension, come back, like let's figure this out, right? Let's kind of regroup here, because Baylor, their first guy walked on 4 pitches. Then he stole second. Not that the stolen base mattered, because the next batter up, Jordan, hit a home run. So that was their 2 runs in the first. Baylor comes back, walk, strikeout, pop up, single, home run. So then they hit 2 home runs, score 5 runs on you. So not looking good. Your bats cold Friday, first 4 innings, or I guess 3 innings plus some because you got 2 guys up to bat in the fourth before the game was suspended. You'd played almost an hour and then went on to play Sunday starting at 12.
And then that one was delayed too, right?
And then the
Or
second game,
the second Sunday game was delayed. Okay.
Yeah. Well, the second game you played on Sunday, the original Sunday game, did get
Correct.
another lightning delay, which you would have avoided had you not had a delay on Saturday. But you lose Saturday's game 5-1. You scored 1 run in the 5th. Matt Hewers, starting pitcher, takes the loss there. He had gone the first 3 innings. So, like, he was the pitcher of record when the game was suspended. But obviously, 5 hits, 5 runs, all 5 of those were earned, 2 walks to 4 strikeouts. Derek Bridges gets the start in the resumed game on Sunday. He goes a full 2 innings. That's, I think, his longest outing of the season so far. Only 2 hits, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts. Faces 1 more than the minimum there, which is good to see him kind of bounce back. Isaiah Rhodes, Max Huffling, Parker Hutera all come in. They combine, those last 3 guys only giving up 2 hits. So yeah, you were down by 4 runs, but it's not like Baylor was continually adding to their totals, whatever. With the weather, the way their ballpark sits, like it was blowing right to left, but it wasn't blowing out. It was like more of a in and across the field. Baylor did hit two home runs, obviously, and both were out to left. So you lose on Sunday. You lose Saturday's game. You're like, okay, well, that's not terrible, but let's bounce back. Let's get this last one. Let's take the series on Sunday. Was not so. Baylor scored first, in the second, third, fifth. They had gotten up 3-0 before Tech ever scored. Tech didn't score until the top of the 7th. So they got to 3-1 and then gave up 4 runs in the bottom of the 7th. So it was 7-1, and then you got 1 run back in the 8th. Jack Washburn was the starter for that game. He continues to struggle, man. He went 4 1/3, 6 hits, 3 runs, all 3 earned, 3 walks to only 2 strikeouts. Trenton Parrish did come in and looked a whole lot better than he did against Texas. He went an inning and 2/3. No hits, no runs, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts. You obviously don't want those walks. Ryan Free comes in and just implodes, man. Does not record an out, gives up 2 hits, 3 runs, all 3 earned, and a wild pitch. He hit a guy. Like, he only faced 2 batters officially. Gave up 2 hits, 3 runs. Josh Sanders came in, went an inning, gave up one of his only earned runs on the season. A full inning, one hit, 1 run, and a strikeout. Jacob Rogers comes in. Rogers is all over the place, man. Like he'll come in and like look really good, and then days that he comes in is just wild. But no hits, but 2 walks and a strikeout. So this weekend, it wasn't so much the errors like it was last weekend against Texas that extended innings and provided Texas with more scoring opportunities. This one, you couldn't hit the ball. It felt like Baylor was able to place hits. They were hitting down the lines a lot. They were hitting them in the gaps. And it felt like, for whatever reason, Texas Tech was going for the home run. Like they're just swinging for the fences every time, hitting it into the wind, because you weren't getting any other hard contact. You weren't driving the ball. So you had a lot of flyouts and then a lot of weak contact. We told you about Baylor's pitching last week. Their pitching was better than their offense, but only barely. But coming into Friday's game, you had scored 7 runs in the last 14 games, and then you score 5 runs total on the weekend. So not only did you break your streak of consecutive games scoring 7 runs, you didn't score 7 in the series. So not good.
Bats came back alive a little bit tonight, but they tend to in
Midweek
Lubbock.
against
against Abilene Christian.
The other thing to note, Damian Bravo injured his hand at some point. Could possibly be like a hamate injury, which is the bone you injure and sometimes break as a batter with just the repetitive use and the knob, how it turns in your hand. Bravo looked off all weekend. He also had like 2 strikeouts where he crossed the plate as a runner was attempting to steal second and then interfered with that. So they got him out on the strikeout and then called him for interference and called the runner out. It happened twice this weekend, both against Bravo. So your offense, past 2 weekends, it's taking a little bit of a hit here. You're now down to you're batting 328. I think heading into the Texas series, you were batting like 370. Slugging's down to 570. On base is 447. 33 home runs, scoring 195 runs, 139 strikeouts. I don't know if there was another stolen base attempt tonight. I know you did steal one and were successful, so you were 23 of 23 on the season so far. But Baylor was able to just slow you down offensively. Frustrated you, felt like you were trying to do so much hero ball and you were hitting it into the wind, and it was frustrating to see like just no change in approach at the plate. Like you were just swinging for the fences all weekend into the wind, and it never worked for you. Like I said, you scored 5 runs, and that may just be just a part of your offensive identity, right? You're a power hitting team that may not be able to switch and hit for contact. But it didn't work against Baylor. Part of that may have been weather. Part of that may have been just the conditions or the way that their field is set up, or you playing on the road, or any combination of all that. Your pitching is slowly improving, which I think is a good thing. Your starter, your ERA has dropped down to 6.5. This is heading into tonight. 1.6 whip. Opponents are batting 303 against your starters, which is not good. Your bullpen ERA is bumping up a little bit, though. 5.57, 1.68 whip, and opponents are batting 295. 26 errors on this season, led by Pompey, and then Tracer Lopez and Damian Bravo both have 4. Pompey has 6. I didn't see if they had an error tonight, but if they didn't, that'd be their first game in quite a while. Let me look at the box score tonight.
Yeah, I had just closed it. I was going to try to find that to help out, but I'm doing you no favors.
The live stats has not updated. Thank you, Sidearm Stats, for nothing.
So home stats, I am seeing a 0, a goose egg on errors.
Hell yeah. But before tonight, the first time you had not committed an error. Nope. I take it back. It was Saturday's game. You had 0 errors then. But you had 2 on Friday. Then last midweek, you had, my pages will turn. 1 on Wednesday versus New Mexico State, 2 on Tuesday versus New Mexico State, 2 on Sunday to Texas, 3 on Saturday, 2 on Friday. Oh, these pages are sticking together. Come on now. 2 in the last midweek against New Mexico. 0 against Gardner-Webb, the last game against Gardner-Webb. So in that stretch, you've had 2 games with 0 errors. From your last game against Gardner-Webb till tonight. It's not ideal. Your fielding percentage is down to 964. I don't know where that ranks, but it's not good. This weekend, you are hosting BYU Thursday, Friday, Saturday. As a reminder, BYU does not play games on Sunday. So you move up your weekend series to start Thursday night, 6:30, Friday, 6:30, Saturday, 2 p.m. They are playing Utah Tech currently and are up 11-6. Wait, you said bottom of the ninth, though. 2 outs.
Yeah.
Did Utah Tech win?
No, they haven't won. But the bases are loaded and there are 2 outs. So it's not over, but BYU's winning. BYU's winning 11.
Oh, but they're
6.
on the road. They're at Utah.
They've got to
Tech.
be
Okay.
on the road. I don't think I specified that for sure, but either way, Utah Tech is the home team. So they are batting last. So they've got to be on the road. You okay over there, bud?
I've just been sitting too long.
Gotcha.
I have no back end, so
Just look like you're in some pain.
I am. I can't sit. My butt hurts. Utah Tech threatening there. I guess they could get it within run if they had a grand slam, but bottom of the night, 2 outs, bases loaded.
That's it.
Nope, that's game. I just saw that go final.
Just
So
final.
BYU wins. They mirror a lot what you just saw from Baylor, unfortunately. Not a great offensive team. They're batting 261 as a team, 446 slugging, 364 on base. Have hit 22 home runs, scored 89 runs, strike out a ton, 186 times. Not a great stolen base team. They're 6 of 9 on the year. Offensively, they're led by third baseman Easton Jones, sophomore from Lehigh, 377 batter, 443 on base, 738 slugging. So it's a power hitter for sure. 4 doubles, 6 home runs, 21 strikeouts, which is surprising. He leads the team. For comparison, Cash leads Tech with 18, but he has cut his strikeouts way down. I think he had 9 in that opening weekend series in Arlington. So since opening weekend, he's only struck out 9 times. And Easton Jones is 1 for 1 in stolen bases. And then Kuhio Aloy, freshman from Hawaii, next up offensively, 350 batter, 397 on base, 633 slugging, 3 doubles, 4 home runs, and 19 strikeouts. So they've got 2 guys on their team that strike out more than your leader, which is Cash. Defensively, they allow teams to bat 241 against them, so they have the advantage there. Whereas teams are batting 292 against Texas Tech. Their pitching staff combined is allowing a 4.53 ERA. Texas Tech's a 5.83. They walk more batters. They're 81 on this season. Texas Tech pitchers have walked 78 guys. But Tech has given up a ton more home runs. Texas Tech has given up 22 home runs. BYU's only given up 9, which is impressive. Texas Tech has allowed teams to score 123 runs against them. BYU 85. But that differential is a lot closer. Obviously, BYU scored 89 on the season. I guess 100 now. 100 runs on the season, but have given up 91. Strikeouts, Texas Tech has struck out 183 batters, whereas BYU has struck out 151 batters, and they have a slight advantage. Fielding percentage 965 over Texas Tech 964. Weekend guys you can expect to see on the mound. Ben Hansen, he's 2-2 on the season. He's thrown 24 2/3 innings, has a 6.20 ERA. Opponents are batting only 253 against him, and has 16 walks to 19 strikeouts. Bryce Robison, 2-1 on the season, 23 1/3 innings, has a 3.09 ERA, so much better. Opponents are batting 253 against him, but only 8 walks to 23 strikeouts, so almost a 4-1 ratio there. Sorry, 3-1. Yeah, I can do math. And then Cutter Clausen, which is a fantastic name, I think. He's 0-3 on the season, 21 full innings pitched, 7.29 ERA. Opponents are batting 3.01 against him. He has a 16 walk to 21 strikeout ratio there. Big thing is you're at home, so hopefully those bats continue to heat up, reheat for Tech here. Looks like it's going to be a great weekend, so I don't think there's going to be any kind of weirdness in terms of like weather or weird wind. Partly cloudy and high of 70 Thursday, sunny and 75 on Friday, cloudy and 72 on Saturday. Doesn't look like we get any wind until Sunday. So should be a gorgeous weekend for baseball at Dan Law Field at Rip Griffin Park. I mean, obviously you love all the home games, but have to wait on that trip out to Provo to play this team until next year. You need
which looks amazing.
Yeah, you need at least a series win this weekend to get right. I mean, you're 2-4 in Big 12 play. Just winning one game in each of your past 2 weekends.
Yeah, and it's bad on both things. Texas, it was better than their record showed. Baylor, I don't believe was. I think Tech just played really poorly this weekend, and so coming away with only one win at home versus a decent Texas team, and going on the road against a very beatable Waco Bear team, and only grabbing one of those, and it being the first one with no signs of life the rest of the weekend.
Mm-mm.
Just kind of felt a little hopeless.
And BYU did just come off a series win at home against Houston, who had their way with Baylor. And then, not to rub it in, but Sam Houston State just blasted Baylor tonight. Last I saw it was 17-1.
Oh, really?
Sam Houston over Baylor.
Good.
Except bad.
I'm always rooting for the Bearcats.
Yeah, for sure. Did I tell you I was almost a Bearcat myself?
I believe you mentioned that because of their music program.
Yep. When I went to the state solo ensemble competition in Austin on the fine campus of University of Texas at Austin, my judge was the violin professor at Sam Houston State. So we struck up a relationship there, and he was recruiting me to come out. And I had placed too much emphasis on what my, at the time, girlfriend's mother thought about the proximity of the campus to a state penitentiary.
Oh, okay.
Because we wanted to go to school together.
Yeah, and
but
Huntsville, it's right there. Yeah.
She was not going to allow her daughter to go to Sam Houston State. So then it was down to Denton, North Texas. There's mutual interest there. She had more interest in going to BYU. I did not. She had no interest in going to Tech. So we ended up going our separate ways.
It's all for
They
the
worked
better.
out for the best.
It's all for the
For
better.
sure. We both met our prospective spouses where we went. Happy are we? Back to baseball. You absolutely need a series win. Would love a series sweep to get things right. Hopefully your pitching staff comes out on fire, shuts everybody down, throws up zeros all weekend. 3 perfect games or 3 no hitters would be great. Where you blast them for 30 runs every night would be fantastic. All right, let's wrap this thing up. So I think we're gonna go long with questions and what do we learn. So let's I guess step back or look back into basketball, Michael. How many brackets are you filling out? Or have you filled out? Excuse me.
Well, this is confusing to me because I think it's usually been this way, where whenever I'm invited to join a group on ESPN's bracket challenge, so I'm in 2 groups. I'm in the Partly Picadors group, of course, with the Gambling Gauchos. I'm not sure how you get that link, but I'm sure if you DM the Gauchos, they'll just give it to you. But I think there's like 200 people in there, and then I'm in another group with a bunch of close friends of mine. So previously, it made me fill out a bracket for each group. But what it did this year is I've just filled out one bracket and it's applied that to both groups I'm in, which I found interesting because I remember kind of tweaking stuff and playing around with things a little bit in multiple brackets. So to answer your initial question, I have filled out one and it is in 2 groups somehow. What about you? Are you filling one out right now? You look like it.
No, I was responding to a text message. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm also in 2 groups, but they're both family groups. And I filled out, I think, a total of 3 brackets. And I don't, as I was going through it, I was realizing how many higher seeds I was picking to go through. I was like, this is trash. I just know it's bad. I did almost universally like New Mexico over Clemson, which I think is a 6-11. The rest, I just know so little, which I
Me
think
too.
usually helps. So maybe I know too much in my limited knowledge to actually help me out here. But
The McCullough news may have me go back and revise my Kansas pick because I didn't have them going very far because I anticipated them to have injury issues. But now that he's officially out, I don't know. I may have him only win the first weekend. I think I had him winning the second one as well, but I'm not sure about that anymore. And who do you have going all the way?
I'd have to look. I think I've got
I know,
Houston
same.
in there.
I've got Houston winning, but I
I've
can't
got-
remember who they're playing. I think I have them playing Arizona. So really original there, I'm sure.
Maybe I have more than 3 because I'm thinking back. It's like I think I've got Illinois up there for one. Just out of sheer hope that like Shannon continues his hot streak and goes off. I think I've picked Arizona. I think I've picked Auburn to be in there.
Yeah, I've got Illinois up there too because I think it worked out to where I had them playing Iowa State. And then I picked Illinois to win that battle. And I think that was a Sweet 16 game, so I think that would have taken them to the Elite 8 if they won that. Anyway, I can't remember where all that landed. I should have pulled up my bracket. That's what people love. People love when you talk about your brackets. It's the most exhilarating thing.
They probably care about as much about your bracket as they do your fantasy football lineup.
I just love all the
Which
tweets.
I've spent considerable time on this podcast going over my fantasy football lineups before. So
We did a college fantasy football league one year.
Yeah.
And talked about that every week. And I remember LeBar gave us a lot of crap.
it's like nobody cares. Like you're right, nobody cares.
So yeah, I've
LeBar.
only filled out one bracket. If I could figure out how to fill out a second one, I might. but I don't know how.
Well, Michael Labar, I hope you're doing well, man. It's
Yeah.
been a minute since I've heard from you.
I know.
Hope the Metroplex is treating you right. Um, yeah, I only have a few brackets. I filled them out today because I was like, oh my gosh, the tournament
Yeah,
starts today. I've got to get them in.
that's what I did too. I did it during lunch.
Yeah, it's about the same. And I can't even I'm so uncommitted to it. Just I couldn't even tell you. Besides, I know I've got Houston winning in one of them. So let's wrap this up with what did we learn? What do you say?
Cool.
What did we learn, Palmer?
I don't know, sir.
I don't know either.
All right, so I bought a brisket recently on sale. And I haven't committed to memory the beef grading scale, Michael. It was a choice. And I should have known then when it was on sale, like they're probably not worth it. But it was a choice. I did a good amount of trimming last night to get it ready to go. I put on the smoker before I went to bed last night. I don't know, man. I had to get up and take my oldest to school a little early because I had an 8 o'clock meeting I had to be back for, which was obnoxious. But I ended up, so it went on the smoker last night at 10:30. I got up, I had it wrapped at 7:30 this morning, and then it was temping and was tender at 9:30 this morning. So my issue was it was
not
dry.
Not quite 12 hours. It was close.
Not quite 12 hours. It was dry. I think it was fairly lean. It may have also had to do with how I held it. Like I left it wrapped. I preheated the oven to the lowest temperature. I put the brisket in there still wrapped. It got up to 170 in the oven, and then I turned it off. And I checked on it a couple hours at a time, and I'd reheat the oven back up because it would get down to like 135, 140, and I'd reheat it back up. It's probably that reheating process, but the flat was fairly dry and was disappointing. So combination of I had to hold it for a really long time. And it was a fairly lean brisket.
Yeah, and not the top, not a prime or something like that.
Not a prime.
Prime time brisket.
So just if you're gonna buy a brisket on sale, I know you can't look into the meat, but see if just make sure it's not choice.
I've got to do another one. I've got to do another one someday. I just haven't pulled the trigger yet. I think I'm gonna wait till summer or till it's warmer or something, and then try my hand at a brisket. It's probably been, I bet it's been 2 years since I've made one. I haven't cooked as much the last couple of years, but when I have, it's mostly been on the Weber. So I'm not smoking as much. But this weekend I did. So I did some smoked wings on the Traeger, and we did a kind of a quick brine that we did. It's been a long time since I've done this, but we did it was 2 pounds of wings, worked out to like basically 2 dozen, give or take. And the quick brine was equal parts a cup of water, a tablespoon of sugar, and a tablespoon of salt. And so what I did previously was 6 of each, and that worked, and that was plenty to brine the wings. And you brine them for an hour in the fridge. Then you take them out and you set them on a cookie sheet and just kind of pat them dry with a paper towel and put them back in the fridge and just kind of let them sit there and dry out just a little bit. And so then I threw them on the smoker at 350. And the reason I used the smoker was because just surface area. The Weber's perfect for 350, but the smoker just has so much more area, and I know I'm not going to singe the crap out of this stuff. And man, I pulled them off in like 30 minutes, 35 maybe. They were, you know, the meatiest drumstick or whatever was right at 180, and some of the flats were already measuring at 190. And I'm like, ooh, crap. So pulled them off, and it gave a good, uh, about as good of a crust as you can get on my smoker. I felt really good about it. Oh, the thing before I put them on there was I put olive oil. Crap! I coated all the wings in olive oil before putting them on, but did no seasoning or anything. And so after I pulled them off, I used some wing dust. We had some wing dust that we'd had. I wasn't that crazy about it, but because of the smoke and the brining, the wings already had a lot of really good flavor anyway. So definitely something I'd do again. And I could do a ton of them at once because that Traeger just has a ton of room. But yeah, it is. It takes a while for it to get up to temp. There's a on mine. There's a setting for 375 and then a setting for high. And I think high is supposed to get up to 450. It never has. I got it to 420 once, right when, yeah, you know what I'm saying. No, I got it to 420 once, right when I turned on the grill, like the first time I was trying to mess with it 7 years ago, and then it's never gotten that high again. But the other day, I felt pretty good. I had it set at 375, but it was reading 350. So I know there's a lot of folks that, well, if you got that Rec Tech or Yodel, Baby Yoda, whatever, everybody's got their own thing, but mine has never, yeah. 350. If I hit 350, I'm cutting a fat hog, man. That's about as high as it'll get.
I've always just thought like once you're approaching like 350 and above, like may as well just put them on the grill or just in
Yeah,
the oven.
right.
But
I lean that way too, but for wings and without having to mess with them, I tend to burn chicken really easily, and there's just so little surface area on that Weber, so I'd be cooking directly over coals a lot, and I just think I'd screw it up. So I agree with
I
you,
would
but that's like the one exception I've found that okay, I'll heat it up this hot and it'll work, and I'll feel okay about it. Rest of the time I use the Weber.
I would encourage you to look into a slow and sear for your Weber if you don't have one.
Did you tell me about that? What is?
I did. So it's like a charcoal like a basket, but it holds it off on like a 1/3 of the bottom.
Oh yeah, I've got that.
Okay.
I totally. Fun story. I bought that years ago for a hand-me-down grill that someone at work had given me because I was trying to kind of convert it to a smoker. And I
Hmm.
found those grill baskets at Home Depot or wherever. I thought, oh, this will be perfect. And then flash forward like 8 or 9 years later, I get a Weber kettle that those are made for,
Hmm.
and it's perfect. Yeah, I use them. I use them all the time. I love having indirect and direct areas, but even with that, mine's like the 22 inch.
Yeah,
So
the same.
I still don't. I don't know if I could have gotten. I might have been able to get all of those in the middle of that grill
Yeah,
away
the,
from
the
those
problem
baskets.
the problem is with the Weber, like even with that slow and sear, whatever, it's like there's quite a different temperature change, like right there
Yeah,
at the edge of the basket to the
yeah.
far end. So you have to be doing a lot of rotating, and that's just a lot of babysitting.
But yeah, that's how I
Um,
do. That's how I do beef tenderloin, pork tenderloin. I've done
mhm.
chicken breast that way. There's a lot of things. I've done ribs that way that have turned
Anything
out really well, hot
that
and
I don't,
fast.
yeah, that I don't have to like that doesn't cook like direct heat the entire time. Yeah, I'll just do it on that and
Oh
just
yeah,
factor in it's going to take a little bit longer. But like, yeah, like I've done pork tenderloins, I've done chicken thighs and legs, breasts. I'll just set up on the slow and sear and have it smoke or just indirect for um whatever, and then I'll sear it at the very end and finish it off.
yeah. About the only thing I really cook direct anymore are burgers
Mhm.
and
Which I do on the Blackstone, at my house.
steaks. Burgers and steaks, and then of course like sausage or something. I'll get a sear on them one way or the other, but I don't even cook those completely on direct because burst that casing, and then you just lose all your juice and you create a nice, great fire. So I tend to keep those indirect for most of the cook.
Yeah.
I love zones. I'm all about the zones, man. Zone defense.
I was gonna say one of the
I'm
things.
just parked in the zone.
I have good luck doing wings in the air fryer.
Yeah,
So
that's we were going for quantity this time, but man,
you have to do so little in the air fryer. You do like 8 at a time, maybe.
Yeah, but it's I've got just enough smoke flavor to make it worth it. But I do distinctly remember, even while I was eating them, I was like, these probably would have been just as good in the air fryer, but we just had a lot that we were trying to do.
Yeah. Well, that'll do it for us on the 23 Personnel Podcast, getting you ready for the tip-off, the big dance, NCAA tournament, Texas Tech taking on NC State. Thursday night, 8:40 tip time. If you were to get past the Wolfpack, you get Kentucky probably on Saturday. We have a home baseball series Thursday, Friday, Saturday against BYU. Hope you get right there. But for Michael, I'm Spencer. Catch you guys next time.
Thank you for listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast. Help us out by subscribing, rating the show, and leaving a review. Follow us on Twitter at 23 Personnel, Spencer at PuntSuck, and Michael at Michael_LBK. Be sure to catch the next episode. And until then, guns up and let the tortillas fly.